Hello everyone, and thank you for watching today. This video is from the Come Follow Me, Old Testament class of the Continuing Learning Program of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Today we will be studying Lesson 21, Judges. Let's get started. The structure of the Old Testament. The Old Testament is divided into 4 parts. 1. Genesis through Deuteronomy are books of the law. 2. The books of Joshua through Esther are book of the history. 3. From the book of Job to the Song of Solomon, it is a book of the poetry. 4. From Isaiah to Malachi, these are books of the prophecy. Up until now, we have studied the 5 books of Moses, but the book of Judges is the second book of the history. The book of the history record the history of Israel in chronological order for more than 600 years after Moses' death. Now let's look at the book of the history. The structure of book of the history. Book of the history are also divided into 4 parts. The books of Judges through Chronicles describe the Israelites' experiences from their settlement in the Promised Land until their conquest by Assyria and Babylon. Now, let's take a look at an overview of the book of Judges. Summary of the book of Judges. This is the story of the 12 judges who defended their homeland from invasions by other nations after Joshua's death. Judges are military leaders chosen by God to deliver the Israelites from their enemies. The original author is believed to be Samuel. Now let's take a look at the overview of each chapter. Chapter 1. After Joshua's death. War against the Gentiles. Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar. Appears in chapters 2 and 3. Deborah. Appears in chapters 4 and 5. Gideon. Appears in chapters 6 through 8. Chapter 9 contains the wicked deeds of Abimelech, son of Gideon. Tola. Jair. Appears in chapters 10. Jephthah. Ibzan. Elon. Abdon. Appears in chapters 11 and 12. Samson. Appears in chapters 13 through 16. Chapter 17 through 23 contains Israel suffers from disobedience. Now, let's take a look at the 12 judges. About the judges. Let's take a look at them in order. Othniel. Defeat the Cheshon-Rishathai army. Ehud. A left-handed hero. He defeats the Moabites. Shamgar. Kill 600 Philistines. Deborah. King Jabin of Canaan defeats the army. Gideon. Destroy the idols and defeat the Midian army. Tola. He live in Shamir, the hill country of Ephraim. Jair. He has 30 sons and owns 30 towns. Jephthah. He defeat the Ammonites. Ibzan. He has 30 sons and 30 daughters. Elon. He judged Israel for 10 years. Abdon. He has 40 sons and 30 grandchildren. Samson. Possessing superhuman strength, he fought against the Philistines. This color represents a scholar who lived during a time of peace. Now, let's look at each chapter. Judges chapters 1 to 3. God who saves disobedient people. Israel fought and occupied the land of Canaan, but instead of driving out the Gentiles, they forced them into labor. Because Israel had come to serve the God of the Gentiles, God handed them over to the enemy and brought disaster upon them, causing them distress. So God raised up judges and saved them. When the judges died, Israel rebelled again. Because Israel did not obey God and did not destroy the heathen, they ended up obeying the gods of the heathen. The process is as follows. Disobedience leads to idolatry. Allowing the Canaanites to remain on the land. They concluded a treaty and subjected them to forced labor. To marry outside the covenant. They believe in foreign gods and worship idols. After this, Israel would fall into a cycle of apostasy. The cycle of apostasy. Loyalty and obedience. Peace and prosperity. Misdeeds. Destruction and oppression. Repentance. Rescue. This cycle of apostasy is also mentioned in the Book of Mormon. Now, let's learn about heathen. The heathen. Noah's flood was the only humankind that survived, and only Noah's family remained. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Terah was a descendant of Shem. Ham's descendants became the Philistines, Egyptians, and Canaanites. Japheth's descendants became the Greeks and Romans. 2.1. Terah's children included Haran, Neher, and Abraham. Lot was a descendant of Haran. Moab was a descendant of Lot. The descendants of Moab became the Moabites. Benami was a descendant of Lot. The descendants of Benami became the Ammonite. The descendants of Neher became the Aramean. Abraham had a son named Isaac. Isaac had 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. The descendants of Esau became the Edomite. The descendants of Jacob became the Israeli. Israel is God's people, and everyone else is a heathen. Now, let's take a look at the gods of heathen. Heathen gods. Baal. A male god of Phoenicia and the land of Canaan. He was worshipped by the Moabites and Midianites in the time of Moses, and his worship spread to Israel. Ashtaroth. A Philistine goddess. She spread throughout Israel during the time of the judges. Dagon. A Philistine god who spread throughout Gaza and Ashdod during Samson's time. Molech. An idol of the Ammonites. They perform the most cruel and abhorrent ritual of sacrificing the children of the Ammonites. Israel was repeatedly helped by the true, living God, yet was tempted by these heathen gods. Now let's return to the book of Judges. Judges. Chapters 4-5. The prophet Deborah. Because Israel had done evil, God had Jabin, the king of Canaan, conquer Israel for 20 years. So Israel cried out to God for help. The prophetess Deborah was judging Israel under a palm tree in the hill country of Ephraim. She prophesied that Jabin's army would be destroyed at the Kishon River, and that Sisera, the commander of the army, would be killed by a woman. Sisera assembled 900 chariots at the Kishon River. Barak, leading Israel, fought Sisera's army with 10,000 men. God sent a great flood into the river, and Sisera's army was destroyed. Sisera fled. Sisera fled into Jael's tent, but Jael nailed him to death through the temple and told Barak. In this way, Israel was protected by the prophetess Deborah. Now let's move on to the next topic. Judges. Chapters 6 to 8. Gideon. Because Israel did evil, God had the Midianites conquer Israel for 7 years. Then Israel cried out to God for help. God sent an angel to Gideon to save Israel. Gideon smashed the idols. Gideon's army numbered 32,000, but in order to prove God's power when he won, he gave them water to drink and selected only 300 men who would drink with their hands. When Gideon's army blew their trumpets, the 135,000 enemy soldiers turned on each other and were defeated. In this way, Israel was protected again. Now let's move on to the next topic. Judges. Chapters 13 to 16. Samson. Because Israel did evil, God allowed the Philistines to conquer Israel for 40 years. Then God brought forth a new judge, Samson. At the wedding feast, Samson posed a riddle to the guests and made a bet. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. Explain the meaning of this riddle. The people blackmailed Samson's wife and asked her to reveal the answer, and Samson told her the solution. As a result, the people won the bet. Samson used the superhuman strength bestowed upon him by God to rob people and give the prizes to those who won his bets. After that, he set fire to a fox's tail and burned the Philistines' fields, killing many of them. Because of what Samson had done, the Philistines attacked the people of Judah, so the people of Judah tried to capture Samson with ropes and hand him over to the Philistines. Samson, with his immense strength, cut the ropes and killed 1,000 Philistines with a donkey's jawbone. Samson's story continues. Judges. Chapters 13 to 16. Samson. Samson loved a woman named Delilah. The Philistines asked Delilah to find out the source of Samson's strength. Samson lied 3 times, but Delilah persisted, and he eventually told her that cutting your hair makes you weaker. Having his hair cut and losing his strength, Samson became a slave to the Philistines. The Philistines were offering sacrifices to their god Dagon. Thanking God for capturing Samson, they released him from prison and tortured him. Samson, empowered by God, toppled a palace pillar and died along with all the people in it. Samson was born under a promise and blessing, but he misused the gifts God had given him. Blessings are given along with a pure life. Samson's final strength came from correcting the Philistines' error that the god Dagon had triumphed over the God of Israel. His strength lay not in his hair, but in his faith in God and his Nazirite vow. By cutting his hair, he broke his vow and lost his power. The story of Samson is a famous one, and it has even been made into a movie. What can you learn from these stories of judges? Please take a moment to think about it. Now, let's begin today's discussion. Today's discussion. 1. Even when the Israelites repeatedly forgot God and committed evil, God repeatedly raised judges and protected them. What can we learn from this? 2. What can we learn from the cycle of apostasy? What do you think we need to do to remain peaceful and prosperous? 3. How do you feel about God's power demonstrating that Israel was reduced to just 300 men when they fought the Midianites? 4. What can we learn from Samson's story? 5. Do you have any other information, questions, or things you'd like to learn about judges? Please think about these 5 things and discuss them together. Once we've done that, today's lesson will be over. Finally, we will show you the information. Information. The purpose of this video regarding the Old Testament covered in Come Follow Me is to 1. Support personal study. 2. Help teachers prepare lessons for Sunday school, seminary, primary, etc. 3. Support home study, such as for family home evening. If you would like the PowerPoint data, please send an email to the address below. Thank you for watching until the end. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel, rate it well, and leave a good comment. See you next time.